Hello, this is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today is Independence Day. It's the 4th of July. As I told my niece, I'm like, it's our country's birthday. And she's like, our country's birthday? Are we going to celebrate? I said, yeah, there'll be fireworks and barbecue and parades. And she was very excited. And she's like, parades? And so I mentioned this yesterday. No, I did not take her to parade. I told her mother. I started looking on, asking some people that, that I know. I'm like, hey, are there any like good parades? Because I don't want to go to like some kind of weird one. And so there were some that were kind of far-ish. And then I, finally picked on one. I'm like, okay, I'll just make the drive. And then I called her mom, and then she's like, she's not waking up for a parade. She's 5. So I was like, okay. And we just kind of left it at that. So I just want people to know that I tried. I was willing to do it. And her mom shut that down. And you know what? I'm not I can't say she's wrong. So happy 4th of July. I hope you guys are enjoying Independence Day. Today we're gonna be talking about it's all a buzz right now that the White House there was some cocaine found there. And people are assuming it's an obvious suspect. That doesn't mean that it is his though, because where they found it is also accessible on the tour. So it's not necessarily Biden's cocaine if that's where everyone is jumping to. But a lot of people, especially people on the right, are jumping to that conclusion, whether they believe that or just suspect that, or they're trolling and they think it's funny. But yeah, there was some cocaine found at the White House. Also want to talk about I'm going to play this video from Joy Reid, who's a host on MSNBC, talking about affirmative action and how she wouldn't have gotten into Harvard if not for affirmative action. There's a lot of people who are starting to turn their sights toward legacy students and stuff. And if you don't know what legacy is, if your parent went to Harvard, you have a more likely chance of getting in. So people are like, well, why aren't we getting rid of that? Why are we just getting rid of affirmative action? Because discriminating against someone based on their race, you can't do that. That's a protected class. Anybody could be a legacy admission. They could make their case. Maybe it could go all the way to the Supreme Court. But if they think all those leftist judges crying and super upset about affirmative action are not going to rule in favor of legacy admissions, I think people got another thing coming and are going to be a bit surprised, because I think it's likely that could be like a 9-0 ruling if they got up to the Supreme Court, because it's not the same thing. But we'll talk about it. Is it good? Is it bad? Or is Harvard just a bunch of hypocrites, etc. So we'll go into that. Also, there was a story. A woman from South Yorkshire got arrested for online trolling, and they just tweeted this out on the 4th of July, and people are just like, "Yep, really glad to be living here in America." Certainly. So we'll be talking that, and cocaine is a heck of a drug. Yes, it's certainly is. So we'll be talking about that and some other things today. But I do want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website. I did post a new article not too long ago, maybe about I don't even know if it was 30 minutes ago, but about some of the reactions to affirmative action, particularly comparing. There's a couple different people, but I do mention Obama, and then I compare what he said, that it gave people the chance to prove themselves versus what Frederick Douglass said, which was, leave us Negroes alone. Y'all did y'all damage. Y'all don't need to make it no worse. We don't need you to help us. If we can't stand on our own 2 feet, then we just gotta fall. Period. So I think that's a really different worldview that a lot of people don't have. And I'm like, well, if this man can have that mindset in 1865, being someone who's a former slave himself, then why is our first black president who is not a descendant of slaves, is a descendant of a slave owner actually, and why does he have a different perspective in the year 2023? So the article is named Systemic Pity. So go ahead and check that out and read that and share that around. But that's available at blacktnews.com. So is different merch. And I said I was gonna wear my Frederick Douglass shirt, but I couldn't find it in time. I guess I could have if I looked earlier, but it's somewhere in my room. But so I saw this one, and this one's really popular, and I thought with affirmative action topic, this would be fine to wear. So I'm not the victim you're looking for. It's one of my favorite shirts that I have available on the website on blacktnews.com, so you guys can go ahead and check that out, pick that up. If you like what I do here at blacktnews.com, you guys can donate blacktnews.com/donate. Costs to stream, costs to run my website, and all that good stuff. So if you can support, I very much appreciate it. If you can, if you're watching on YouTube, you guys can do super chats and super thanks and stuff. If you're watching on Facebook, you guys can send stars. And I thank guys for commenting, for watching live, for watching back. All that stuff does really help. So thank you guys. And thank you for, listening to me say that every single time. But, people watch for the first time sometimes. So it's good to, just say, hey, appreciate you. This is the shirt, though, that I do love and adore. I'm just going to, maybe I'll wear it tomorrow. But that's available at blacktnews.com, as well as other merch that you guys can get at the website. So like this like this Trump shirt, make crack whack again. um I made that when it came out about the government making like kits for people for drugs, like different needles and stuff so they can safely administer it, I guess. I'm like, I don't know if that's the way, bruh. So anyway, that's why I made that shirt. It's just appropriate for some of the topics that we'll be talking about. But first thing I want to mention, since it is the 4th of July, I don't have a meme for you guys, so I'm just going to go into it. I saw this great quote from Mark Pellegrino. If you don't know who Mark is, he played Lucifer on Supernatural. He was like the main face of Lucifer for a long time. He was also on Being Human. He played Bishop, the vampire overlord of Boston. And he's been in other things, but I guess those are the big bulk of which I know him from. But he's a very interesting political figure guy. He started like the capitalist party. I think it's the American Capitalist Party, and his website, the American Capitalist Party.com. And he has an interview with Dave Rubin that's pretty fascinating. But I do follow him, and I wonder how many different people in Hollywood maybe have a similar kind of viewpoint. Because I saw other things that he tweeted in the past. I'm like, that sounds kind of libertarianish, but he's not a fan of like libertarians either. Which for reasons he explains, like the Dave Rubin interview, but he wrote a great quote for the 4th of July. He said, the 4th of July is the greatest holiday in history. It should be a holiday celebrated by everyone. Why? Because the Declaration of Independence is the conscience of the political world. Since its birth on this day, 247 years ago, all governments, no matter how cynically they abuse its principles, must at least pay lip service to the moral principle of rights. They must at least hold up the pretense of human sovereignty, or their constituents will revolt. On this day, remember, the Declaration has no equal in political history. Celebrate this rare phenomenon we call liberty while we still have it. Never forget that if America is lost, the light of liberty is lost for the world. Happy 4th, liberty forever. Just a really, really, really great post. So I did retweet it. If you follow me on Twitter, make sure if you're following me across my different social media platforms, all the links should be in the description if you're watching on YouTube and Facebook. So I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram and TikTok, and I have backups. Like I have a backup YouTube account. So go ahead and follow, and make sure you go to the website and drop in your email so you can get emails. I promise I don't spam. If anything, I don't send enough emails, and I'll have to send out one either tonight or tomorrow. But I don't send a lot, so just go ahead and sign up so you at least know what's going on. Like I couldn't, if you watch me on YouTube and you follow me on YouTube, when I got a strike for a pro-life video of all things, because I talk about way more controversial things, I think. But and it's funny because the things that I think that they would think are probably controversial, the ones they totally elevate for sure. But I had no way to just alert the followers on YouTube. I couldn't write a post. I could edit a post though. That was weird. I don't know what that logic is, but yeah, I couldn't post anything, and I could, whether it was just a word post, or if it was an image, or if it was a video. So if you only follow me on YouTube or one platform, there's a day you might look for me and you won't be able to find me. So make sure that you look at all the other things. As I said, links are in the description. So again, I thought that was a great post, and some people are noting that Yorkshire police, South Yorkshire, decided to post on their social media today about an online troll that was sentenced to prison. Um, and I'm like, okay, this sounds pretty bad from the tweet itself. So let me just read what's actually like on their website. Maybe there's more that I don't understand. Something beyond like the trolling. And no, mm, not really. Online troll sentenced to prison. A Sheffield woman who baited social media users into arguments. Oh, some of us will be in jail, y'all. Uh, commented hurtful and derogatory words, has been sentenced to time in prison. Katie Bell, 27, of Stradbrook Road, has appeared before Sheffield Crown Court yesterday, 3rd of July, charged with malicious communications and breach of restraining order. Her charges related to malicious communications on Twitter and Instagram between March and December of 2022, targeting numerous victims across South Yorkshire. Bell was sentenced to 15 months in prison. That is wild. And I saw some people on the internet like, oh, this is the face of Antifa, these kinds of people, or not Antifa, I'm sorry, they said did they say QAnon or something like that? It wouldn't have been Antifa. It was like a group or something. I'm just like, people troll each other online across the political spectrum. Is that worth 15 months in prison? Like if you're, and I don't, maybe there's other things I'm kind of missing. Like if they were like, I don't know, death threats or something. But if this was just like trolling, and on Twitter you can block someone. I easily got blocked the other day by this Kassam guy. He's a lawyer, huge account on like TikTok, and I think his Twitter following is pretty good too. And he was talking about affirmative action, and just kind of bypass the fact that Asians are discriminated against. I'm like, affirmative action is like a racist policy, and Asians are like discriminated against. Instant block, like block so fast. I'm like, oh, I should have screenshot that. So I asked like a follower, like, can anyone screenshot that, please? So you can block people on Instagram, you can block people on Twitter. There are some people who you do block though, and then they just keep making accounts. I've had someone who I blocked maybe make like 10 accounts. They're just like, I'll just keep making them. I'm just like, I'll keep blocking them. I'm like, this is weird. So I don't know how deep her online harassment was, but that's pretty wild to me. So I saw someone make a little meme of sitting in front of the computer wearing like just a bunch of patriotic garb, like a uniform from like the war, fireworks bursting, and they're like, this is me on 4th of July in America reading this tweet and this story. So I mean, I don't think we're as free as we ought to be, but I'm so very glad for the freedoms that we have. And I'm so very glad that the freedoms that were affirmed even in these, cases like the 303 creative case that just happened with the Supreme Court, which was a First Amendment ruling, and people are so angry about it. But and if you're not familiar with that case, there was a graphic designer who didn't want to go into making websites, and if she goes into the wedding website business, have to make a website for a gay couple, like for their wedding or something. And so people are saying it's a fake story. That's like the big narrative, like, oh, this is even if like a real person. And so she did get like requests that were like submitted to her that I guess she responded to and rejected, but that has nothing to do with the actual ruling. It was a um the court saw that she had standing because Colorado has an anti-discrimination law, and they've targeted people in the past. So undoubtedly, if she was in that circumstance, they all know that Colorado would come for her and find her or whatever. So um if they wouldn't have harassed Jack Phillips the way that they did, maybe she wouldn't have had, the standing that she did. But it didn't even come down to a freedom of religion. It came down to the government is not allowed to compel your speech. And I'm glad that we live in that America, but there's some people really ticked off about it. Now I think they're really ticked off because they're not being honest, because I keep using the scenario that if a Christian wanted a gay baker to make, cakes for a conversion therapy camp or something, they'd be appalled and they wouldn't want to do that, and they wouldn't think that the government should be able to compel that. So we could stop being hypocrites at any time. That'd be great. So, anyway, glad to be in the USA. If you don't follow Mark, he's an interesting person, and it makes some really really intelligent post. So I'd follow him. Maybe one day I'll try to reach out and get him on. Like I said, I have seen him in a couple. I used to, watch Supernatural. I did not make it for all 15 years. Is that how long it was on? I didn't make it. I didn't go the distance. But how many years did I at least watch it? At least I didn't make it to 10. Maybe 8, 9 or something. Is maybe consistently to 8 and stopped at 9 or something. Maybe it was a long run. It was a long run, but I definitely enjoyed being human. And he was on some other things as well, things that I know I've seen him in, but I'm kind of blanking. But I'd follow Mark. Mark's is interesting. So another interesting thing that's going on today is that you guys know the reparations committee in California, the one that wants to like pay, I don't know, thousands if not millions of dollars to Black residents or whatever. So they got another reparations ask going on right now. So they want the task force is calling for the eliminating child support debt for Black residents. So what's interesting about that is that that would obviously impact Black residents, like Black mothers with children. Now, I don't understand why they would be allowed to make such an ask. I mean, the committee's together, so I guess they can ask whatever the heck they want. So why they think that this would be an appropriate ask or something that they should grant or something that's not, again, selfish to Black mothers is pretty messed up. But it looks like they want this is from the New York Post. The California Reparations Task Force is asking the Democrat-controlled state legislature to eliminate interest on past due child support, as well as any back child support debt for Black residents of the state. So, I can understand asking about the interest. But it's pretty messed up to only ask about the interest for Black residents. You should want to get rid of all the interest if you're going to go that route, because you could argue like if they got to pay stuff for their kid, what does that got to do with the legislation? Now you could say, well, they're the ones who have to I don't know, process stuff in the courts or whatnot. I don't know if it's worth that much of the interest or whatever. They can limit that or get rid of that or whatever. I can understand that. To just ask for the black people is outrageous, I think. But the debt, the debt you owe the child's mom, like, now, I know there's times the child support stuff is outrageous. I think we're totally hypocritical on the child support thing. Like, I think your man should, take care of his child. I also think that you should be married to that man as well. So I mean, we have a huge problem in the black community, and they're noting that child support is something that disproportionately impacts black communities. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? Those are choices you have made, and they're very bad choices that negatively impact not just the black community but society as a whole, but yes, especially the black community. um so we should make better decisions, not we as a people, I guess, not me as a person, because I've made good decisions, but gosh, like, I know sometimes the courts go crazy with different payments, but that's like a case by case thing, just to wipe out the debt, back pay of stuff that you didn't pay for the woman who's like taking care of the child. Or maybe it's reversed sometimes, it's reversed. Usually it's, the man has to pay the child support, and their stuff is cut up all kinds of different ways. But this reparations task force is wild. They are wild. They said in its final report released last week, the group claimed discriminatory laws have torn African American families apart. Torn them apart in what way? Because you were never together to begin with? Like, and that one effort of that is the harms caused by the disproportionate amount of African Americans who are burdened with child support debt. There's no accountability, bruh. The nearly 1,100-page document stated that Black Californians represent a larger percentage of those who owe child support debt than the proportion of the state's population. It also claimed that 10% interest of the state charges on back child support hinders their ability to finance further education, attend job training, find employment, and maintain housing because of the legal consequences of not paying child support. Yeah, they will get you if you don't pay. Now, some people are like, "Nah, they didn't go after him, or they didn't force him to pay," or that happens sometimes. But man, I've heard stories. You know, my family. Well, everybody knows we're. I'm religious and stuff, and so celibacy was always a really big deal. And we go to different churches and we talk about virginity. People call it purity culture and say it's toxic or whatever. Maybe some people teach it toxic, but it's just like, I know, good common sense for your society, but whatever. We can argue about that another day. But my we people talking about, I mean, we talk about these things, how you can have your check cut up in all kinds of different ways. When my dad was 16, he gave a speech in high school. He felt the Lord compelling him to give a speech about being a virgin. And so he looked around the class. He's like, I'm going to get laughed at. The Lord's just kind of like, you got to do it. You got to do it. So he gave his speech and people, they laughed and stuff. And then he just got indignant and started talking about how, like, my like, some of you have looked at how your father treated your mother and said that you never do that, and now you're the same way. And then he said, my wife will never have to be crying upset and that because our child came to her asking when is daddy coming home. And then he when he go to different churches and talk about it, he'd be like, I never have my check cut up all kinds of different ways, and his leg would kind of go up from child support. And the crowd would hurrah at that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's rough, buddy. It's rough. But what, we're like 70 something percent of children are born out of wedlock. So we got to make some better decisions. But if there's just like these crutches that are there, like, oh yeah, we'll take off the debt. Do you guys think that those kind of things are going to make the problem better or worse when there's just no like pressure for accountability? You know, and some of these girls, I don't know if the child support laws are still the same or whatever, if they changed a little bit by now. But in the past, there'd be like, I knew somebody who they were lying about the father being in the home because they wanted um the welfare checks, and they were more if he wasn't home, and so then because he wasn't home, he or the courts believed he wasn't home because she was lying about him being there or whatever. I guess child support was coming after him. So there's just a lot of dysfunction here. A lot of dysfunction. This story is so wild. They've asked for some crazy things, but this is pretty crazy to me because I'm like, there's I think there's obviously women on this committee. So who said that this was a good idea? Who's going along with it? Again, because there's a lot of black women and children who be kind of missing out. Yeah, y'all got in them comments when I started talking about the story. Oh, see, it looks like people are watching late and just saying Happy Independence Day. I thought Happy Independence Day. They want independence from this child support. Yeah, interesting story. Again, the New York Post is reporting on that. Another interesting story. Hunter Biden. I'm sorry, we don't know if it's Hunter's. There was cocaine found at the White House. Cocaine found at the White House. We do not know whose cocaine it was, and a lot of people are jumping. And I know I started the hour saying it's not necessarily his. That was kind of an accident, starting with Hunter Biden. But yeah, we don't know whose it is, and it was found in the library. And they do sweep the White House a lot. At first, they found a substance, and there had to be like a bit of an evacuation stuff, and so they tested it out and found that it was cocaine. So a lot of people are jumping to it's Hunter Biden does live at the White House, does he not? And of course, we know that he was very, very addicted to drugs to the point where if he couldn't get cocaine, he would sniff Parmesan cheese. So we still don't know if it's his because it could have been someone on the tour who could have had it and left it there. However, I have been inside the White House a few times, and never for the tour. I've never done the tour, but I have been there for was it just two African like Black History events or something when Trump was president. Secret Service checks you and they make you, you know, empty out your stuff. They look through your purses and your whatever. They go through the metal detector, get the wand or whatever. I'm not saying it's impossible for people to sneak in drugs to the White House. What a heck of a thing to try. I mean, I'm not. I don't know if it's something that's really happened like in the tour, people leaving stuff like something like that. Um, and I don't know what. Usually, when you have an event and there's someone who's been high up to the presidency or something, they don't even want you to bring in like big stuff. I mean, he could have like stuffed it in his shoe or something and then got it out and took out the cocaine in the shoe but anyway, they just don't let you bring in a lot of things to events where there's going to be someone who is the president or was the president. Um, you know, I'm not saying they make you um take off your shoes or something like when you're going through a TSA kind of thing at the airport. But they do check and they do look at that stuff and they do look you up before you can go to certain events. So I'm assuming they do some kind of check on you before you go to the White House tour bit. So I I don't know if that makes a lot of sense to me, that someone dropping that on the tour. It's not impossible, but and some people are really stupid. So maybe they'd risk it, maybe they do it, and maybe they could get away with it, and or maybe someone within planted it or something. I don't know, but to me, it's very possible that someone dropped it on the tour, that it maybe was somebody who works within the White House, who who dropped it there or something. There's other explanations to it being Hunter Biden's crack. So it doesn't have to be his. He is living there though. He is living there though, and he has been for a while. And the reason why it's believed that he's lived there is to dodge being served by his baby's mama. But who they just did wrong, that little girl of his. Oh boy, we'll talk about that another day. But these are just trash folks. So we don't know if it's his, but I don't know. You guys can let me know what you think. And to me, it doesn't. I don't know why you do something so dumb coming into the White House with crack cocaine, with cocaine or whatever during the tour. They do check you. You can't just walk through the door. I'm not saying it wouldn't have been impossible to get, I don't know, crack in your butt cheeks and go into the White House, go in the bathroom, take it out, and then go do it in the library or something. I'm not saying it's impossible to go in to take your drugs in, but I think that would be a really bad place to risk it and have Secret Service or somebody find you out and then being arrested by Capitol Police or whatever, or I don't know what would happen to you on the federal grounds of doing stuff in the White House. It just doesn't seem like a thing that a common sense person would do. But I guess if you're doing crack, then that makes you a crackhead and you do crackhead things. So I don't know. I haven't really I don't think there's a lot of stories like that have popped up in the past. I don't doubt that there have been drugs in the White House in the past. Especially, maybe during the Clinton age and other people. But if I had to guess, I'd have a good guess. But again, we don't know if it's his. We don't, and it's fair to say that it could be someone else's. It could be someone from the tour. It could be someone else. It could be someone planting it. It could be accomplice. Someone who likes to do with. But we don't know. We don't know. Interesting story though. Speaking of interesting, there's been a lot of interesting commentary about the affirmative action case. And so Joy Reid from MSNBC decided to talk about it. So this is making the rounds. And I think Joy's video that I'm about to play, she kind of I think it shows how affirmative action really sells people short. Now, when I watch her show and watch her segments, I didn't know if she went to Harvard, and I wouldn't have guessed that. But I mean, I guess you can go to any place and they can make you pretty darn indoctrinated. So I don't know, but she makes the most dishonest and crazy and dumb leaps with stuff that I definitely don't respect her intelligence. So but she will say that she couldn't have gotten to Harvard without affirmative action, but then she's also going to note that she resented people for bringing it up and accusing her of only being there because of affirmative action. So let's go ahead and watch this. This is about like a little more than 2 minutes, I think. So at least I don't know how long the entire segment was, but this segment, at least that we're going to watch, is a few minutes.
Got into Harvard only because of affirmative action.
Let me roll that back a little bit.
Well, let me just be clear. I got into Harvard only because of affirmative action. I went to a school no one had ever heard of in Denver, Colorado, in a small suburb. I didn't go to Exeter or Andover. I didn't have college test prep. I just happened to be really nerdy and smart and have really good grades and good SAT scores. But someone came to Denver, Colorado to look for me. A Harvard recruiter flew to Denver, and I met up with her at the Village Inn restaurant and did a pre-interview to get to pull me into Harvard. I wasn't.
So, to say I only got into Harvard because of affirmative action, it undermines her accomplishments. I don't know what her SAT scores were, and I don't know how good her grades were. Apparently, they're good, and from me, it sounds like she was worthy of the merit. So this idea that she was only pulled in because of affirmative action, like, to me, would be better to say she was only in there because a recruiter cared enough to want her there. And maybe they recruited her for I don't know, for the a diversity kind of to hit a goal number or whatever. But would she have not have gotten that attention from people if not for her grades and her hard work and her test scores? So to just be like, to start off with, like, you owe so much to affirmative action, and so no, maybe the schools wouldn't have been so gung-ho about finding people and recruiting people if they didn't have, like, I don't know, different diversity quotas, etc. So granted that, but to me, giving all this credit to affirmative action and then being upset because people pointed out is pretty wild to me. So we'll keep listening.
I was pulled in, and the schools like Harvard and Yale that I got into affirmatively.
Yes.
And it was literally not saying we're going to take an unqualified person and put them in Harvard. Yes. We're going to take a very qualified person who we would never know existed and put them in Harvard. That's how I got there. That's how Ketanji got there. That's how Justice Jackson, I should say, Justice Jackson got there. It's how Clarence Thomas got there. Right. But the minute I arrived from my majority black little town, Montbello in Denver, to Harvard, the first week or two that I was in class, my presence was questioned by white people. I was in this big conference class where some white students stood up and said, those students, the black students, they're only here because of affirmative action. It became a huge argument that we all ended up having. This was freshman.
So she said that herself. She said, I'm only here because of affirmative action. Granted, I'm not saying that the people who are no, I don't think anyone is saying that the black students who get into Harvard are stupid or aren't don't do well academically. The issue is that there's other students that, like Asian students, a lot of people don't want to mention that. They want to just talk about white students or whatever, but like there's been stories that have just like totally ignored the Asian plaintiffs and stuff, saying that they've had harm and that there's actual data that there's been discrimination against Asians. Now some people are just flat out like, yeah, Asians need to basically get to the back of the bus, but they're saying, these people are doing too well. So they're going to have to work extra hard to get in at the same level that we would accept, a black student. So it's kind of, when you play a video game sometimes and someone plays on normal and you might play on easy mode. I mean, that's kind of what, so the Asians are hitting all the different, like, up, down, slide, right, left, X, A, B plus together, whatever, to do the special combo, and you're pressing two buttons and getting the same hit points or whatever. So that's another way that you kind of look at it. So not that you didn't take the victory, whatever, but it was easier for you to get in than someone else who should be playing on the same level as you. So they're it's harder for Asian students. It just is. So she's the one who has admitted that she wouldn't be there without affirmative action. So people pointing that out, it puts an asterisk next to your accomplishments. And so whether it's true or not, it makes people look a little, suspect at you, and they're raising their eyebrow and making that question, like, would you be here? Now maybe you would, now maybe she would, maybe she'd still be there without affirmative action saying that, hey, we need to go, even though maybe she doesn't test as well as other students, the fact that she's testing okay or testing pretty good and that she is smart, we can let her in and give her a bit of a handicap because she's black. So yeah, that causes some, like, natural animosity to people, for sure, certainly.
year. I had never had my academic credentials questioned. I had never had anyone question whether I was intelligent until I got to Harvard. And it was a defining point of my experience there. It's why I really was one of the many reasons I was miserable there my freshman year.
Yeah.
You feel completely out of place and people keep telling you shouldn't be here. And yet, some of the people I went to school with were far less smart than me or the other black folk there. They got in because their daddy and their granddaddy. I went to school with somebody whose name was on one of the buildings. You're going to school with people whose names are on the buildings, who are third and fourth generation legacies, whose parents pumped money into Harvard to get them in. But that affirmative action is okay with this majority. They said that the people who benefited from slavery, their descendants, who are so far ahead of black folk in terms of opportunity that we'll never catch up to them. I don't care how many Oprahs we get. Those people's affirmative action is A-okay because those people can pay for fancy trips for them.
Yeah.
But you people who want to get in just because of your brains, but you're not from a legacy, too bad. You can't come in.
So the court ruled about, no, you cannot discriminate against someone based on their race. That is a protected class. And so even if you have someone, who, let's say they're a white kid and they're a legacy student and their grades aren't as good as someone like Joy's, that's not the same as giving an advantage to someone because they're black and then, making it harder for someone who's Asian. The truth about being a legacy student is that there might be a lot of white people who are legacy students, coming from legacy families, but that's not really based on race. It's not discriminating based on race. So it has nothing to do with the actual ruling of why they decided what they wanted to decide, right? If you want to bring a different case to the Supreme Court, you can on this issue. If it will make it that far, there are people, I guess there's articles about challenging it because that's the new kind of conversation. I don't know what kind of legal standing there would be to just get rid of that. So they're mad at the majority of the court for their opinion, but as I said at the top of the hour, that might be a 9-0 ruling if that actually went forward because it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing. Now, if Harvard really wants more diversity within their students without affirmative action, they could just stop admitting so many legacy students and taking up so many of their spots with them. They could easily do that. And more people of a diverse background could get in just solely based on merit. If that's the way that they wanted to operate without affirmative action. So if that is their goal, to have a diverse group of people and have it merit based, then that's what you could do. But I don't think that's really the goal. And I don't think it's ever really been the goal. So I don't foresee them really getting rid of legacy students because these parents, like the people with the name on the building, people get their names on the building for paying for stuff, not just trips, but for renovations, for doing grants and all sorts of different things. So if their families are paying to keep, and Harvard gets other funds and other things like that too, but if it's the legacy students' parents or their grandparents who are pouring into this money to Harvard for the prestige and they want their kid to go there, do you think they're gonna just stop that so the black kid could get in? I don't think that's gonna happen. It's not in the best interest for the institution itself. And you don't have, it's not a protected class thing like it is with the race thing. So I don't think you're going to get to where you want to go, because the purpose of the legacy student thing is to give honor to the loyalty, to the loyal people who have been there, the loyal people who continually sow into Harvard, and they want it to continue. So I really think the big issue, the really big issue is our outlook on Harvard and how much stock we put into them and how much prestige we afford to them and how highly we think of them. If we know that they openly discriminate against people, is that a good thing? I don't think that's a good thing. Some people think it was a good thing. I don't think that was a good thing. So, but we're still like, oh, we got to get into Harvard. or you know that they have a lot of people who they admit there who aren't the best of the best, but their mommies and daddies are super rich and went there before, but yet we're still like, oh, that's the best of the best. It's the creme de la creme. That's the Ivy League. That's where you want to go. That's where you record yourself. You're, opening that letter, and it's life changing. And as soon as you arrive, not as soon as you get that diploma, just as soon as you arrive, you've arrived. So is something wrong with them, or something wrong with us? Is something wrong with them, or is something wrong with us? Because the legacy students and their parents, they're buying into the prestige, and they're sowing into the prestige, and it's not just about merit. This idea about that people have just in life in general about the best person for the job, the most qualified. That's not how life works. That's not how life works. Like with actors and whatever, like, oh, they were just the best actress. They were the best person for the. Maybe sometimes they are the best person, and sometimes you have someone in mind for a role, and you nab them. But there's different deals that studios make. There's people who are in different contracts where they have to do a certain amount of movies. Like if you want this script, then you have to do this thing. Like was it John Krasinski? Is that the name? Who's what's the name on Jack Ryan? He's on The Office. Is that his name? But he I think the reason why he did The Quiet Place is because he got contracted to do some other things. Maybe it was Jack Ryan, and they're like, well, you got to do this other thing, and so he didn't like the script, so he asked to like remake it. Good thing, because Quiet Place is a good film, and he wanted to direct it. But his wife Emily, she had to do she could have been Black Widow, but she had like an obligation to do like Gulliver's Travel or something, and I've never seen that movie. Apparently, it's not great or whatever. But she was contracted because she did like Devil Wears Prada, so she had to do their film. And so eventually they were like, it kept passing and passing and passing and passing. But she's there's still this pressure, so eventually she had to like agree to do one. So there's all kinds of reasons why they end up picking different actors for different roles. Or if you get a job, maybe you're a very qualified candidate, but maybe someone's more qualified than you, but they really, really liked, your personality, and they think you're going to gel well. Another thing about like a role or something, I'm pretty sure like that Robert Pattinson wasn't a lot of people's view or image of like Edward Cullen, but for some godforsaken reason, they casted Kristen Stewart first, and she really liked Rob, and she fought for him, and she's like, we got to do this movie together. She thought they had really great chemistry. It's okay on screen, I guess, but they did date for a while until she cheated on him. So, there's a lot of different factors. It is not always solely like merit based. Maybe we think that school should be that way, and perhaps they should, or perhaps they shouldn't. But I don't think that's what it's about. I think it's about the prestige of the institution, and that a lot of that goes into the legacy parents and the students, and what they sow in and what they give and what they pay into it. So that's a pipe dream, guys. That's a pipe dream if you want to get rid of that. Now maybe it's not. Maybe you could, but that would immediately, I think, change Harvard itself. It would immediately change Harvard itself if people couldn't basically buy their kids into the school, donate their kids into Harvard, and they're like, oh no, your SAT wasn't like banging, so we can't actually let in your kid, even though you gave us like $1 million. You guys really think that's gonna happen? You guys really think that's gonna happen? I it's so naive to, I think, even complain about. And people are like, well, you're upset about affirmative action, but you won't say anything about legacy students. They're not even in the same kind of sphere. Again, the reason why the Supreme Court ruled against affirmative action is because race is a protected class. You cannot just discriminate against people based on their race. Now, we could make the argument that we should be able to discriminate against anyone at any time, and we should have no sort of government protections on that. Just throw out, Civil Rights Act and, accommodation laws. Some people were like, can't you just as we were talking about the 303 creative case, so like, can't you just deny anyone service? No, you can't just deny anyone service if the reason is you're discriminating against the protected class. You can't just do that. Now, maybe we ought to be able to do that, but I think as I told someone who asked a couple of different questions about this kind of stuff, I said maybe we should be able to have the free freedom to do that, but I think people are too afraid of that kind of freedom. I think people are entirely too afraid of that kind of freedom. They would rather have the government give them some kind of protections than to just allow everyone to negotiate with each other on where our boundaries are. And now I said in the case of the 303 case, and maybe it's something about affirmative action stuff too, but I would rather have the power to discriminate against other people than have than rely on the government to protect me from discrimination from other people. If that means that they'd have to force me to comply. So I let me say that again. I feel like I got a little mixed up a little bit. I would rather have the power to discriminate against other people than the government protect me from discrimination against other people, if that would mean that they have to compel my speech. If like in the case of the 303 case, that was a case where that came down to free speech. Now, a lot of people are upset, especially in the LGBT community, and that there's some of them who are like, I saw a lot of videos that like, I'm gay, I'm fine with this case. We shouldn't be making people do stuff. Just go somewhere else. It's not a big deal. But there's definitely a lot of people, and not all of them are gay. A lot of people on the left are upset about it, and how dare you discriminate against someone, even if it's your religion, you're still a bigot or whatever. Who cares? Honestly, I mean, we can care, but it's about free speech. Do you think the government should be forced to make people say certain things, do certain things that not just violate their faith? I don't think people should have to rely on their faith. And I'm glad they just ruled it as a First Amendment issue rather than just sticking into the like exercise of religion. I'm glad that Gorsuch, made that distinction, that it is a free speech issue. It's not just for religious people, but beyond we should have the freedom to express ourselves how we would like. There's also the freedom of association as well. So would we rather have those freedoms? Would you rather Harvard be able to say, yes, we want to keep our legacy students. We would love for there to be more Black students and Hispanic students. And you know what? We're just going to take like a little bit of Asians, and have the freedom to do that. Would you rather them have the freedom to do that? and even if it's not about merit, they can do whatever the heck they want. Would you rather they be able to do that and basically be a free for all for everybody? I think that's something we can discuss and debate, but I think that would freak too many people out. Like, oh my gosh, you want to get rid of the civil rights movement? Oh my gosh. I mean, the movement, but Civil Rights Act and stuff. You want to get rid of public accommodation laws? You want to bring back Jim Crow? Like, no, I don't want the government to enforce discrimination policies. No, I don't want that. But sometimes I bring up stuff like this, like you would be upset if someone said you couldn't go somewhere because you're Black. I'm like, I would just go somewhere else. Why would I want someone who is that racist? Because most people are just like, I'll take your dollar. But why would I want the government to make someone make me food who does not want to do it? That's crazy to me. Or it doesn't have to be food; it could be anywhere. But go to a hotel and like mine happened to be the one with the bed bugs. No, thank you. I'll just go where I'm wanted. Or people will get together and they'll build their own kind of properties and other stuff. That's what people used to do back in the day. So, and then I'm not saying that was an easy route to go, but people again like their dollar. They will be like, oh, even if there's two races on the block. One of them will probably like money more than the other one. So they'll be like, maybe they won't tell you they're racist, but they'll be like, man, that racist next door won't serve you. You can come in here. I will gladly take your money. Your money is green, not Black. Your money is green, not Black. So we just kind of trusted that would happen in a capitalist society, especially in 2023. And if you would really discriminate against people that there'd be someone else that would take your business, and maybe even people would boycott yours or whatever, and the other person, and you would be successful and other people wouldn't. So, and I said this before, that people discriminate against businesses themselves. They want to go where they want to go to a Christian business, they want to go to a Jewish business, they want to do business with only Muslims, or they want to, or they have a preference. I see it all the time when I'm at different conventions. People come up to my table and they're like, I want to buy from Black people, and I'm like, your money is good here. Just like everyone else's. I'm not going to deny your sale. I want to make my booth back. If that's how you feel, whatever. I make good content. I like my content. I'm proud of my content. I don't I didn't need your personal information, actually, but you offered it. I still don't care. I'll take your dollar. Maybe you can feel all kinds of different ways about that, but that's just the truth. That's just the truth. That's how I feel. So I'll take your money. But I don't think people are ready for that kind to rock in that kind of world. I think it scares people. But you're not getting rid of that legacy stuff. Not anytime soon. And if you do, it'll fundamentally change the institution that you're trying to get into. It. If you think that there's something shady, or that Harvard doesn't do things merit based, and that it sounds like there's a quality issue without people trying to acknowledge there's a quality issue, because they still want that prestige. If you're still willing to give them that prestige while knowing that they don't care about it, about the actual merit of their students, I think that's more of a you problem than a Harvard problem, because Harvard is doing what it wants to do, getting millions of dollars. Anyway, thank you guys for joining me today. Go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, articles, videos, etc. Please check out different merch that I have, like this cool, like, I am not the victim you're looking for shirt. That's available for purchase, as well as other products like my book, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. That's available on Amazon and also available on Barnes and Noble, for people who ask, like, why did you make a book that has so much theology in it? Well, it covers science, it covers philosophy, it covers rights, and a bunch of like political stuff, particularly in America. But I got really sick of people bringing up religion. There on Saturday, someone in my comments mentioned that there's an abortion in the Bible, and they're talking about Numbers 5. I go through Numbers 5 quite a bit in the book, like the whole entire section of it. And so I'm like, that's not true. And then I sent them to a video that explains it pretty well, because I didn't want to type it all out. And they're like, "Oh, this is such a reach." And it wasn't a reach. It was a really well done video, and they didn't explain to me why they didn't like it or whatever. So I was just like, okay, tell me what specific ingredient do you think causes the abortion, and tell me where in the verse it's implied that she's pregnant. And then they got upset, and they're like, "You sound crazy. You're defending this book and think about everything in your life." And I'm like, okay, if I think about everything in my life, I'm definitely not walking away as an atheist. Like, and I know not everybody watches me, is religious or whatever, but I can't be unconvinced. I grew up in a church with signs, wonders, and miracles and all that stuff. But like, I'm like, the theology of Christ, that's teaching himself of Christ, and how it's applied to my life and the life of my family. We see how that leads to a more peaceable life, a more abundant life. Like, why would I just be like, eh? But I'm like, even if we were arguing about anime, okay? Even if we were arguing about anime, and you said Vegeta did the Mangekyo Sharingan, I'd be like, dude, you're wrong. And we'd argue about it. We would intensely argue about him. I don't know if my sister's still in the chat. Me and my brother one time just argued for days over the Powerpuff Girls and their concept of time travel. So I think we were like, I don't know if we were forbidden to talk about that or if that was I know we were forbidden to keep arguing about the movie Prestige, but like people go toe to toe arguing about things that aren't true. And so if you're wrong, just take the L. If you can't prove it, just go from there. But don't jump to you're crazy because you're defending this. But you brought it up, bro. You're just wrong. So anyway, I got sick of people like that. So I break down a lot of things. You're not going to use my religion to say things that aren't true and then not expect me to clap back and correct it. So I saw a need. That's why I made it, because otherwise I like to kind of stick to science, philosophy, rights, and leave it at that. So that's why it's there. Do I support the BLT community? What does that mean? When I hear BLT, that's my sister's had a rap group for their nicknames Bina, Lena, and Tina. So when I hear BLT, that's what I think. I don't know what that means. What does Parmesan cheese have to do with cocaine? So you guys are watching this late, huh? Because Hunter Biden reported that he talked, I think in his book, that when he couldn't find cocaine, he would sniff Parmesan cheese because he was just that strung out and desperate, I guess. So Jack Posobiec actually like made a shirt with like Parmesan cheese or something like that. It looked like, I think, the Kraft bottle. I don't remember what it said, but it was a really good shirt, and I was like, I wish I had thought of that. I didn't get it, but I thought it was a pretty good shirt. But yeah, that's what Parmesan has to do with it, because he was sniffing Parmesan cheese. So I was waiting a second to explain what the BLT community is. Let me I have no idea what off the top of my head. I'm sorry if that's an obvious thing that I just don't know. BL. The Atlantic wrote an article about the BLT community. I don't think that explained it very well. I don't know what that means. I don't know. I'm gonna just guess no. I don't know what that means. I'm assuming I'm being trolled right now, maybe. I guess we'll just go with bacon, lettuce, and tomato. Because I don't know what that means. Sorry guys if I'm not up with it to understand. Maybe someone's laughing at me across the screen. I don't know. God bless you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the 4th of July. Someone said they thought I was going to take a break. Nope. I said I'd be here. I mean, I thought about it, but I said I'd do a live. So I'm here, and I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Again, if you want to help Black Teen News and support Black Teen News, you can go to the website, blackteennews.com, and donate if you can, whether it's gifts of $10, $20 or more. I very much appreciate it. It costs to stream, run my website, all that good stuff. So if you can, again, very much appreciated. And make sure that you guys are signing up for emails, that you guys are following across different social media platforms, hitting notification bells and whatnot. And go check out the new article that I just posted on my website, Systemic Pity. And God bless you, and I'll see you tomorrow.